Probably the biggest time waster in the practice room is whipping your instrument out of its case and proceeding to play through your repertoire over and over again, often repeating the same mistakes, often getting annoyed and frustrated at those mistakes and having no idea of how to solve them in a way that would be retained on another day. 6 hours later, perhaps we pat ourselves on the back for a busy day with our instrument, and then the next day, of course, all the same problems come up again. Or worse, we have gotten so burnt out the previous day that we spend the rest of the week not practicing at all. The lack of purpose and direction has led to overwhelm and the lack of progress. Much more effective is to have a clear plan, an idea of what and how to practice. It's far better to target something concrete in a focused 2-hour practice day rather than panicking through a 6-hour one. This is especially important when there is a lot of music to learn and not enough time in the day. Often achieving just one specific task will already give you valuable information of how to improve other parts of your playing, whether it's something technical or related to interpretation. So here are 3 steps, simple but not easy necessarily, on practicing with better intention. Step 1 is to acknowledge where you are right now. Not where you were last year, not where you plan to be in a month or 2, but where you are right now. So you want to identify strengths and weaknesses. This may or may not be specific to a piece per se. So for example, you can ask yourself the following questions, or maybe you can create your own. For example, what do you think about your sound? Is that one shift still bothering you? Are certain bow strokes tricky? Generally, how comfortable are you in your body when you are playing your instrument? Do you tend to clench your jaw or furrow your eyebrows or raise your shoulders when there is something difficult, or if there's a fortissimo passage? How do you incorporate your breath in your playing? Do you think about your breath at all? I know many string players don't think about the breath enough, and I think we're all guilty of that to some degree. What do you already know about how to play your instrument or about the piece that you're working on? Do you tend to gravitate towards doing certain things a certain way? And if so, is it helpful? So once you've assessed your situation, we go to step number 2, which is to make a decision. And this is primarily the what, the how, and the when. This last one can be tricky in some situations. What will be practiced and why? For example, if you already know the notes or you already memorized a piece, most likely you shouldn't be spending the next hour practicing the notes just to make sure you still remember them. A lot of times that's a type of practicing out of insecurity. I know I've been guilty of that many times, and I know many others have as well. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if everybody has done it at least once. You want to choose your next best step. So sometimes this is super obvious and you can make a very simple list of measure numbers that you want to target, put it on a post-it note. And actually, I realized recently I love using post-it notes when I practice. I used to use those practice planners, and some people still love to do them. But you know, the busier we get as musicians, sometimes we gotta keep it very simple. And actually, post-it notes I found very useful when practicing many pieces at once. Like if I'm, for example, preparing for several different gigs, or if I'm preparing for an audition, there are many elements involved. So let's say you finish practicing one day and you make a very quick list. Okay, these measures work on intonation, these measures work on, let's say, bow distribution, and these measures we can work on, I don't know, phrasing or subdivisions. And you take the post-it note, you stick it on your music or on your music stand. That way the next time you return to that piece, you see the sticky note there. You just don't have to think about what to practice or how to practice. You don't have to, you just follow your own instructions. Just go down the list in order. This makes it so much easier to make decisions, and it makes practice much more efficient, at least for me. Now, if you're not sure what to prioritize in your practice, because there are so many things that you can do, a great teacher can help to guide you in the right direction. Once you've made your list, choose your practice strategies. So, for example, are you going to use a tuner or a metronome? And if so, how can you use them so that they don't turn into a crutch that you rely on all the time? How many good repetitions is it fair to play before moving on? And if you're someone who tends to be hard on yourself and you don't consider anything good, I hear you. You can say instead, okay, that was an acceptable repetition. I'm going to count that in. Oftentimes, 3 to 5 good reps in a row is just fine, especially when there are many things to do. Of course, it depends on you, depends on your situation, depends how you learn. Then you also make a decision, hey, is this something that can be recorded for instant analysis? And hint, hint, if you're watching this video on your smartphone or on your laptop, then the answer is a resounding yes. Unless you're doing mental practice, you have an access to a free recording device. Finally, once you made your practice plan, we want to go ahead and to step number 3, which is the most important one, and that is to listen carefully. We are practicing music after all. The violin or whatever instrument you play, that's not music, that's just the medium through which you express your music. So let's take intonation as an example. We cannot work on getting our intonation consistently well without incorporating things like pre-hearing the music, audiation, accurately judging whether something was sharp or flat or in tune. In some cases, this is something that you can instantly tell right away and correct it in the moment. Other times it's a little tricky, and this is when we can use a tuner or self-recording as a tool to help us. Sometimes the problem can be solved just by using a drone or by slowing down a recording to identify which one note made the whole passage sound out of tune. So quick solutions like this should be done, probably are able to be done in a matter of minutes and not hours, because you want to allocate your time wisely. And the next time we're going to be using our active listening skills is maybe for something else. Maybe the next time we're going to work on rhythm or bow distribution or phrasing. So once the problem has been identified, sometimes the solution is not as obvious, and we might question if the technique that we're currently using, maybe it's a fingering or a bowing, question if it's reliable. Sometimes at this point, the key is to bring our awareness to any unnecessary tension in the body, a non-ideal distribution of the bow, maybe we're using too little bow, too much bow, the balance among our fingers in both hands, maybe it's not working, or maybe the bow angle to the string doesn't work for the bow stroke that you need. So this is the point where you create a feedback loop, and this is what's going to help you arrive at a possible solution. So our audiation, the sense of hearing the music in our mind, the physical sense in our body, the sense of vibration through the instrument, and our ideas, they all kind of come together, and this is where all the really good practicing happens. This is where progress can be made. By the way, one powerful tool that I personally love to use in deliberate practice is self-coaching. And often I do it while utilizing self-recording. I talk all about it in this video right over here. Go check it out next. And as always, let me know your biggest takeaway in the comment section below. Hit the notification bell, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and happy practicing.